Hello, and welcome to this week's Query of the Week. So my name is John Murphy. I work on the Omnipro practice support and tax and legal side of the Omnipro business. So this week's Query of the Week came in when we were providing advice in relation to financial statements. Effectively, the question was, well, look, this person, he'd heard that there was a new version of FRS 102. He wanted to know when was this applicable for, and was there any advantages to early adopting this FRS 102 version. So I suppose to answer this question, the new version came out in March of 2018. It came about as a triennial review by the FRC. The FRS 102 and the FRC have said they'll update FRS 102 every 3 years. So effectively, this is a 3-year update since it came in. I know it doesn't seem like 3 years, time does fly, but I suppose to highlight the main changes. So really, the March version of FRS 102 is effective. If you're doing Section 1A in Ireland, it's effective for periods beginning on or after 1st of January 2017. So that's only effectively Section 1A of FRS 102 in the March version, because it brought in, that March 2018 version brought in the effectively the small companies regime for Ireland into Section 1A. So it brought in a new Appendix D in there. So that's where you're referring to when you're applying the Section 1A FRS 102. You're referring to Appendix D for all disclosures in that respect. So I suppose that's the first part of the question. In relation to when is it mandatory for, so for Section 1A, it's mandatory for periods beginning on 1st January 2017, as I said. But for all the other changes from Section 1 to Section 35, they are only mandatory applicable for periods beginning on or after 1st January 2019. So I suppose it's good news in that you don't have to adopt it now for the 31st December 18 year ends. You have till the following year. But it would be miss of yourselves if you didn't advise clients of some of the benefits that are there. So I suppose one of the benefits that I'm just going to highlight in this particular session here is effectively just take an example of Section 16 investment property. Under the pre-March 18 version, I suppose, which is currently in force, Section 16 of investment properties states that where a company is in a group, or it's a group of companies, one of the companies owns a property and another company in the group use that property. Section 16 says where you hold the property for long-term rental or capital appreciation, it must be treated as investment property and you must fair value that on the balance sheet. The change that's made as a result of the triennial review in Section 16, effectively, it gives the entities in that group a choice for that company that holds the asset and another company in the group that uses it, for the company that holds it to actually just treat it as property, plant and equipment. So effectively it means, using your holding at cost and applying depreciation each year and using the residual value rule. So that can be very beneficial, because this, for groups where they supplied, they had to go on present market value the investment property on that subsidiary's balance sheet. And that, created costs, it created administrative hassle. So as a result of this change now, effectively they can just treat it as if it's normal property, plant and equipment. You don't have to, it's a choice. And there is a good exemption if you only do follow this new approach, if you decide to go down that route, that you can deem the previous amount that you had on the balance sheet in the previous year as your deemed cost and depreciate from them on. So that's just an example of some of the changes when they're coming into effect, and one possible benefit of maybe one of your clients early adopting the changes so that it can save them time and money in relation to it. So if you're interested in this topic, we're going to do first for FRS 102 bootcamp series. We're going to look at a triennial review, the changes that have been made by it, the advantage of early adopting, and from my perspective, I only see great advantages in this FRS 102. It's not like previously it's going to be bad things. It's all good in FRS 102 March 2018 version. So that webinar is on the 17th of April. So if you're interested in that area, please, log on to the webinar.